The view from a bus, coming up next on Pastor Bob's Coffee Break. Well, I wanted to do this video with our new bus. And I want to talk a little bit about homelessness, and I want to talk about personal need. So I get a lot of text and email messages from people that say, why do you keep doing this? Why do you keep working with people who are lazy and won't get a job? And that's the person I used to be as well, until I realized what kind of people we're working with. Let me just talk about a few of them for a minute, because you need to know. So I'm not going to use anybody's names, but there's one young lady who is a prostitute that we serve. She's a prostitute because her family continued to rape her the whole time she was growing up. She doesn't know anything else. And she doesn't know how to survive, and she doesn't have the skills to survive. And these days, that's kind of how she survives, is sleeping with people for favors. Yeah. And then there are other people who are just shell-shocked. Some are vets that have been through difficult times and, you know, have post-traumatic stress syndrome and really suffer with it. And they're on the streets. A lot of them have given up trying to fill out the paperwork that's involved with trying to find help. And with no affordable housing, what are you going to do? Others, so many stories. People that have been abused, people that don't have any family or friends. You know, you and I have a safety net, at least most of you do. If you ever lost everything, if your world came tumbling down one day, you know, you have friends and family that would probably take you in. What if you don't? And sometimes that's the only difference between us and them, as we say. You know, is simply they don't have a safety net. We need to become that safety net. And then there are those people that had a place to live, had everything, and then for some reason lost it all. From some misfortunate accident. Sometimes people have had a great business and the business went bankrupt, and then all of a sudden they find themselves on the street after a while because they just can't make it. They lose one thing after another. And I hear those stories all the time of, I used to have a nice house, I used to have a nice car, you know, I had a family. And one by one, I lost everything, everything. And the stories are heartbreaking, but they're still there. People that are on the streets because their medical debt from some kind of an accident was so high and they couldn't pay it and they kept trying, and as a result they lost everything, their livelihood, because they couldn't work. Well, those are stories we hear every single day. And it's sad that even though we hear those stories and people should know better, we still have these judgments about people that we think should just find a job. Well, good luck finding a job if all of your identification's been stolen. If you don't have an address, what do you put down as your address? Identification, all those things are really important for finding a job. And, you know, most people don't want to hire somebody that's homeless. They don't trust them. So it's really difficult. It's a difficult life. And a lot of people have simply given up. And it's a misconception when people think, well, you know, there are a lot of people on the streets because they're drug addicts and they're alcoholics. And there are a lot of drug addicts and alcoholics on the streets, that's true. But they became that way after they hit the streets, not before. For the most part, there are exceptions. I didn't know that before either. You probably didn't either. And the stories continue to go on and on and on. And we have families, you know, sometimes grown children with their parents on the streets. sometimes whole families, and they try to keep their families hidden, you know, so their families aren't taken away from them while they're living in a car. Lots of those people. And now we're dealing with human trafficking. We've had people move into one of the places that we serve that are trying to traffic the people there. And now all the women are not safe. All the people, the younger men are not safe. And, you know, this is a problem. And now they're trying to run all of the homeless people out of the camps that are owned by, you know, the properties owned by the state. So this is the plight. We've been basically encouraged not to keep feeding them when in the places we're feeding them, so that we don't encourage them to stay. Well, there's no place else to go. And so our hands are being tied more and more in how we can help people. But these are people. These are human beings just like you and I. And what would you and I do if we lost everything and there was nobody there to help? What would you and I do if every single day we wake up and we're sleeping in a tent at best? Sometimes people don't even have that. And that's why we hand out so many tents and sleeping bags and all of those things, because many times there is nothing else. But what would we do if that was the case? Well, I would want somebody with compassion to help. Food is a necessity, and we do food, and we hand out the necessities. But even more than that, we give them family. We always say home is where the heart is. Welcome home. We are your home for right now. And even though home is under a bridge or under some trees or wherever we feed, we'd love to be home for you. And working with people and helping them through difficult times is what we all need to be doing. And I'm not just saying, look at me, I'm saying, look at us. This is our responsibility. I didn't need something else to do, and you're probably thinking the same thing. This isn't my day job. And yet, folks, there are people that seriously need our help. Well, we've been given this bus. I'm thankful for it. The inside of it is completely hollow. It's ready to be built. And our vision is to bypass all of the laws where we can't feed the homeless, we can't set up tables. A couple of the cities right here, you can't even do food trucks. They're not legal in the cities. So we were left without any options to try to feed homeless people who are really hungry. And the one thing that we realized we could do was to set up a little restaurant, so to speak, and we're calling it a diner, inside of a bus. People can come in and eat, and then we drive on to the next place. And when this is finished, we're going to be able to serve about 40 people at a time inside the bus in this diner, mobile diner. So Sanctuary Homeless Refuge Diner. That's what's behind me. I have a good friend that has a wrapping company that's going to wrap the outside to look like a diner. Inside, we're putting in stools and all the things that look like a 50s diner. And this will be fun because it needs to be almost whimsical in a way. It needs to be a relief for people when they come in. And I'm excited to spend that time with them. But mostly, it needs to be a place where they feel they can come in and talk and unload and, you know, spend a little time eating and just having some needs met. And so I'm excited for what's behind me. I'm excited for what this is going to be. But I'm still very excited that God gives us the opportunity to work with people who desperately need our help. And folks, this isn't a plea for help, although I wouldn't mind it. We have a lot of expense in front of us to do this. But it's mostly just, why don't we do this? Why don't you do this? Why don't we all get involved with people around us who are genuinely hurting? People who are just like us, people who are us. And there isn't any us and them, there is only us. And when we realize that humanity hangs by a thread so many times, how many paychecks are you away from the street? Yeah. So, just wanted to share that. I share it as a challenge for us as we move out of the quarantine and back into society, that we don't do this the same way. We don't forget all those people that are hiding in the corners trying to survive. That when somebody genuinely needs us, that we're involved. And that includes these homeless, and it includes so many people who are desperately seeking compassion more than anything. Well, folks, don't forget, you are blessed. So go and be a blessing.